Hey, welcome back. Andrew Finney here. Homebuyer competition is at the lowest point since the start of the pandemic. Some buyers are priced out, others are hesitant, and some are even backing out of deals. So is now a good time to buy a home or not? We'll talk about that and more coming up. As always, timestamps and resources are linked in the description below this video because I value your time and you already know why you're here. All right, consider this post by Redfin published on August 12th. Higher mortgage rates and home prices are pushing some house hunters out of the market, leaving those who remain with more options and negotiating power. Scrolling down slightly, we can see how much homebuyer competition has dropped. July marked the sixth straight month of home buying competition falling all the way to 44.3%. That figure represents the number of offers that faced competition, aka bidding wars, versus those that didn't. Looking at this chart, that's the lowest amount of home buying competition since the start of the pandemic. So, what does the lack of competition mean to you? Opportunity is always present in any market and situation if you have an open mind to see it, especially with the dwindling opposition. In this case, the buyers in the current market are facing fewer bidding wars than we've seen over the past couple of years. This results in more homes to choose from, less competition, and more favorable home buying negotiations. These are some excellent things for home buyers and a shock to home sellers as the housing market shifts. So why aren't more home buyers leaping into the housing market? And why are some buyers jumping out of the market like someone just yelled "shark" at the beach? Let's take a look. In the same post, Redfin notes homebuyer competition is cooling as more Americans are priced out of the housing market due to higher mortgage rates and inflation. Properties are lingering on the market longer and the housing shortage is easing up, giving buyers more options to choose from and room to negotiate. Perhaps a better question is, why do you want to buy a home and how will you know when the time is right for you? Let us know in the comments. Thanks. When deciding if now is the best time for you to buy or sell a house, people will always offer their advice to you. But here's the truth. The best time to buy or sell a house is when the time is right for you for the reasons important to you. Real estate markets will always go up, down, and all around. The one thing that doesn't change is where you are in your life when the time is right for you. Now look, whether it's the popular thing for me to say or not, it's the real thing to say. I ask you to think through your decisions for yourself and to never outsource your thinking. If you do, someone else will decide for you and it might not be the decision you want. On a side note, you are the reason that I create content. My goal is to help you. So please drop me a line in the comments to let me know what you'd like to see next. Thank you. To make it easier, if you want to know the 10 questions to ask before buying a house, it's linked in the description. Don't worry, it's free, as in no credit card required.
I don't know who you are or what you want, but let me give you my credit card number.
We've seen this before. In the recent years, we've seen home buying opportunities similar to what we're seeing now. The last time was when the pandemic rocked the United States. Back then, many buyers pulled out of deals. Some because of uncertainty, other buyers weren't given a choice even though they wanted to close on their homes. Instead, they were furloughed, resulting in cancellations for reasons beyond their control. Yet other buyers, or would-be home buyers, believed the videos and the commentary about how the real estate market was about to crash worse than 2008. The creators of that content would say things like, if you hold out now on buying a house, you can invest your money in crypto and purchase stocks on platforms like Robinhood and Webull. In fact, if you get this right over the next 1 to 2 years, the housing market will collapse and you'll be wealthy, they said.
So I've lost a ton of money, but I'm holding. I still believe.
Then you can buy homes at historically low prices. The housing market sucks right now, but it won't suck for you later. Does any of that sound familiar to you? Perhaps not too far off what you might be hearing and seeing right now. Look, don't swallow the shiny object or outsource your thinking, please. Only you can decide what's right for you. Okay, so let me share with you what was really happening in the real estate market back then, because sometimes when we look back, we can gain insight into the future. Back then, the sellers who generally needed to sell their homes were caught off guard. Let me share a story about one of the sellers I worked with as COVID descended on us. 3 days before COVID was announced, the seller accepted a beautiful, clean, list price offer. It was even a cash deal with verified funds. It doesn't get any better than that, right? Well, after COVID was announced, the buyers wanted to renegotiate. To make matters worse, banks tightened their jumbo home loan offerings and some banks shut down jumbo loans altogether. Since the house's list price exceeded that year's conforming loan amount, most financed home buyers would need a jumbo loan. This wasn't good. but we had just gone under contract with a cash buyer, so we dodged the bullet on that one. Or so we thought before the buyer wanted to renegotiate the deal. So the seller, my client, had a choice to renegotiate or to cancel. Honestly, I was of the mindset, hey, let's relist the property and let me help you get a better deal. But at the same time, the seller had a genuine reason to sell to move near family out of state. The seller's decision was cemented with the COVID news and the stay-at-home orders that soon followed. The buyers got a great deal on a beautiful home. Long story short, the seller agreed to the buyer's request to reduce the price by $30,000 in the wake of what was happening. The conditions and dynamics were just right for renegotiations in the early months of the pandemic. That's one example of many I can make for what it was like to put deals together for sellers and buyers back then. For the buyers that were ready, they scored excellent deals. But as we all know, that window of opportunity quickly disappeared by the time the fourth quarter of 2020 rolled around. As a result, many buyers bowed out of the market thinking housing prices would go off the deep end and they would be able to swoop on homes in 2021. Well, how did that work out for you? Look, I'm seeing similar conditions in the current market for home buyers ready to go. It reminds me of a quote by F. Scott Fitzgerald. He once said, "Our lives are defined by opportunities, even the ones we miss." Today's ready home buyers are likely to win, and those who could act but choose not to might regret it later. I'll explain why in a moment. You might say, well, Andrew, that was back then. This is now. How does that have anything to do with right now? Fair question. The quick answer is more than you might think. Like back then, the current real estate market is being jolted, this time by Fed rate hikes, rising mortgage rates, and recessionary fears. Add to the equation a seller with a genuine reason to sell their house, and you have the recipe for negotiations that can favor home buyers, at least in the short term. How long this might be the case is another story, along with the cost of waiting. Maybe you're listening to what I'm saying and it's making some sense to you, but perhaps you're thinking, well, what about the price of homes? What happens if the market does take a nosedive? Look, I'm with you, my friend. I truly am. If you've followed my videos this year, you probably already know my position. I sincerely think that the home prices will shed an average of 15% to 25% of value nationwide within the next 24 months. But there's more than meets the eye with a possible price drop. It will likely come with a consequence, and not just home values plunging like some people are waiting to happen. We'll talk about what it might cost you in just a moment. Many people would say, and perhaps you agree here, that a coin has two sides. The issue is that most people only see the side that agrees with them and what they want to believe. Therein lies a fundamental concern. Without knowing both sides of the coin, one lacks context and perspective for objective truth. Like yin and yang, everything has a balance, even if it doesn't seem noticeable at first glance. We'll circle back on that in a moment. For now, let's flip the coin to see the other side. The Fed is aggressively hiking rates right now to tame inflation. When the Fed increases the rate, it affects many things. But to keep it simple, let's stay focused on consumer loans like a mortgage. When home values eventually slide, and I can assure you they will, it looks reasonably possible that mortgage rates could be higher than now. We might see mortgage rates well into the mid-7s or even the mid-8 range within the next 24 months. Or less. How much they might come down and when is merely conjecture at this point. As a country, we've been here before. Depending on your age, ask your parents or your grandparents who bought homes before 2008 what mortgage rate they had back then. Then let's compare notes. But don't be too surprised if they share something that looks like this historical mortgage rate chart between 1988 and 2008 from Fed Economic Data. Look at that. Mortgage rates in March 1989 were up to 11.1%. The lowest dip during those 20 years was as the Great Recession was underway in December 2008, with rates averaging right around 5.1%. For context, the highest mortgage rate since 1971 was in October 1981 at 18.63%. Now, I know someone out there is going to say, but Andrew, homes cost so much less back then. So if that's you, I offer you this challenge, for science of course. Do the math. Here are a few variables to get you started. Find the median price of homes for a given year, the prevailing mortgage rate versus the median family income, and factor in fluctuations for inflation for the value of a dollar today versus back then. Then show your work or share your findings in the comments for fun. Thanks. Okay, as promised, let's return to the coin we mentioned earlier for a moment. If we take a step back to breathe and reassess the situation, we'll find a coin just doesn't have two sides. Instead, it has three sides. The center. The coin's center is where one finds balance and truth. So if that got you thinking, please let me know in the comments. Thank you. So let's take a look at the center of the coin together. Is now a good time for you to buy a home, or should you wait? Honestly, it really depends on you and your situation. So how do you feel? And what do you think about the real estate market? Is the time right for you in your life to buy a home or not? Those are the only questions that matter. This is about you and your life, no one else. Don't let anyone try to convince you otherwise. So you gotta do what's right and best for you. It's that simple. Stay true to yourself. Don't lose yourself. Of course, I want to make your decision as easy as possible. So if you want an additional 10 questions to ask before buying a house, it's linked in the description. And again, don't worry, it's free, as in no credit card required. Okay, maybe you're thinking through your options and wondering what you should do next. So click here to watch how the home buying process works, or click here to learn 5 effective strategies to sell your house. Either way, the choice is yours. I look forward to seeing you in the following video. Until then, I'm sending you positive vibes. Everything goes your way.